All right, hey, Coach. Thanks for joining me today on this Coach interview. Really do appreciate it. Before we even start, I'm going to give a shout out to a player that you've recruited, from what I understand, and will be attending Ithaca College, who's a fantastic kid, Colin Adams. So my son and him go way back playing, and you couldn't have done better with a player. So.
Well, I appreciate that. We're super excited about Colin, and anytime we can get a PDA guy, we're thrilled. So we actually have two of them coming in, Colin Adams and Ian Schultz. So
Oh wow.
We're thrilled.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, let's just to get rolling. So you been at Ithaca since 2020. You replaced now, from what I understand, the current Tufts head coach, Kyle Desatel. Just curious, what's been your soccer experience, and how'd your journey sort of land you in the beautiful environs of Ithaca College?
Sure. I'll start with kind of my high school experience, and then go through college, and then kind of my coaching experience. So, started out in high school. I played for Steve Klein at PA Classics, actually in the first year of the Development Academy. So, was really, really lucky. Kind of caught Steve before Christian Pulisic and before it became a massive place to go. So, was probably lucky to grab a spot on that roster before it got too big. But was lucky enough to play with some national team players there, Zarek Valentin and Andrew Wanger, that were a year above me, but we got to train with them every day, and had a tremendous experience with him. He's a fantastic coach, and he's gone on to coach in and out of youth national teams, and has been great. So I had someone great to learn from there. Took that experience, went on to Siena College, played 2 years of Division I soccer at Siena College for Garrett Elliott. After my time there, just wasn't getting a ton of playing time, to be completely honest. And then went to Roanoke College and had a really great 3 years there. Went on and played for around a year in Australia and a few different teams. I got paid a little bit of money to play soccer, so we'll call it some level of professional or semi-professional soccer there. And then started coaching. So coached 1 season at Ursinus College with Kyle Rush. Coached 2 years at Arcadia University with Rob Neidick, and then actually went to Ithaca College in 2018. So got here in 2018, did 2 years as being the first assistant under Kyle. Got to know him really well, and we had 2 fantastic seasons. COVID hits, Kyle took the head coaching job at Tufts, and then I was promoted to the head coaching role here. So been here as the head coach since 2020, but been lucky enough to have been here or been coaching here for around 5 years, both as an assistant and head coach.
So you were Christian Pulisic before Christian Pulisic.
I certainly wouldn't go that far, although Mark did coach our team at times. His father and Christian was around the training environment, but we knew he was special. Even then, he was 9, I think, and he would come out and we'd be playing DA games and be on the sidelines, and all of us would be like, "He's better than us already." Which was crazy.
That's what I heard. All right, so I didn't know you were at Ursinus, which is an hour or so away from me. But I'm just curious, because you've had sort of these different experiences, different schools, you've played at different levels. Do you think, from a player perspective, do you think there's a difference between the players of today versus, I'll even say, when you were at PA Classics?
I think athletically, yeah. I think the players have become so big and strong, and just even the amount that people go in, the preparation that goes into nutrition and guys lifting and doing speed and agility at 15, 16, 17. Even us at PA Classics during that time, we might have done some body weight stuff, but we weren't on a strict lifting program. There was no nutrition program. We certainly cared a heck of a lot about soccer, but I don't think there was all those other things that went into it that there are now. So I think guys are bigger, faster, and stronger. And I think the influx of international talent at the Division I level has created an environment for us at the Division III level where we're getting basically Division I players of 10 years ago
Mm-hmm.
that would have been on mid-tier Division I rosters, and now they're starting their career at Division III.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow, that's interesting. That's the first time I heard that perspective. Um, so you play in the Liberty League, which is no slouch of a league. I don't think it gets as much credit for how competitive it is, but I'd like to get your perspective. You know, you're playing against, was it they were like number 23 or 24, Clarkson, Hobart, obviously nationally ranked St. Lawrence. You got RPI, you got RIT. What
Yep.
what's your perspective on the league?
It's an unbelievable league. I think you're spot on with not getting quite as much credit as I think it deserves. I think we're a multi-bid league almost every year, or should be almost every year, and we've kind of shown that since I've been in the league in 2018. So I can speak to since 2018 for us, we've been in the national rankings, I think 3 out of those 5 years, and that would be the same for almost half the league. So you're looking at teams that really are competing on a national scale and are going to create an environment that's super, super competitive every game. So we're really excited, and to be in the league each year is certainly a bear. We finished second in 2021 and lost to St. Lawrence in the final, and last year we don't make the playoffs. So you're looking at a league where there's a ton of parity, and it's just fun to be in each year, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Um, Hey, I'm just curious, as a new head coach, how important is team culture and what you're trying to accomplish at Ithaca?
It's massive. Certainly, I think lucky that I've been here as an assistant and then promoted to a head coach, because I've been a part of the culture since 2018, a part of building it to where we want it to be. So that piece, I think I'm a little bit lucky that I wasn't coming into a culture where I'd have to get to know what these standards and expectations were
Mm-hmm.
before I get the job, and then creating a different one. And probably more of, hey, we're in a great spot. Let's keep building on our success.
Mm-hmm.
But culture is everything. It's everything that we do. And at Division III, I think culture is probably the most important thing that you can build when you can't have probably as many sessions as a Division II or Division I. So all that extra work in the off season is really done by guys that want to do the work. So our culture and what we really preach here is that you have to want to do it. You have to want to compete. You have to want to do the speed and agility, the lifting in the off season, where again, it's not going to be run by the coaching staff, and we're not going to be there, but it's certainly expected to be a part of the program.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, that's a good point, right? Because your guys, they spend more time away from you than with you, right? Like, I mean, I think if you balance it all out, right, and so it's those times when they're not with you, what are they doing? And
For sure.
I think that's the binding element of culture, right? Is how do you get through those times when you're not able to sort of do things in a more constructed manner? Hey, I'm curious because total confession here, because I don't like to talk to coaches like unless they call me out. But I think I stood next to you in South Carolina for like an ECNL showcase a couple months back. You were seated, and my son was playing. Um, so I'm just curious, like, what are the main areas that you recruit from for Ithaca? Because you're obviously going south and you're going to these big tournaments, but sort of geographically, where does Ithaca compete for players?
Sure. So what we've said in the last few years is our rosters, 50% from the surrounding states. So,
Mm-hmm.
New Jersey, Connecticut, New Hampshire,
Mm-hmm.
Vermont, Pennsylvania recently. And then the other half of our roster is really made up of a national field. So guys from really all over. So
Mm-hmm.
being at Ithaca College that has a national brand and a national
Mm-hmm.
name, we're really lucky that we can go get players from South Carolina and
Yeah.
Texas. In the last couple of years, we've had multiple Solar guys, we've had SC Del Sol guys from
Mm-hmm.
California and all over. So we're certainly very lucky with that, but we also obviously want to win the surrounding states. And if there's
Yeah.
a great player in Pennsylvania, like you talked about Colin Adams, we should go get that player as
Mm-hmm.
well. So, we certainly try to win the surrounding states, but again, there certainly is a national feel here, and we're able to go get players from kind of all
Mm-hmm.
over the country as well.
Are you? I mean, look, New York, Pennsylvania, like the Northeast is like D3 very rich, right? Like there's throw a stone, you hit a D3 school. Um, do you like do you I don't want to everyone's competing, but do you have particular schools that it's like Ithaca or that you're competing with for talent?
Um, Certainly, we do a lot of Ithaca or a NESCAC. There's a ton of
Mhm.
that. Recently, it's been College.
Yeah.
We've been in the mix for two or three there. Sometimes with Emory as well. Other high
Mhm.
end academic schools.
Academic, yeah.
That's kind of where we fall in the Division III landscape. It's generally you are us, a
Mm.
another Liberty League, potentially a Centennial, or a UAA or a NESCAC, and then
Mhm.
generally those players also have 1 to 2 Division I offers of some level, or at least
Mhm.
some interest. So,
Mhm.
and I think you probably see this at PDA a lot, which is all those players are high level academic, high level Division III, or some type of mid tier, low level Division I. So a
Yeah.
ton of tweeners.
Yeah.
But that's generally when we're competing for someone. That's generally where it falls.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. All right, just shifting over to your season. I, I'm curious. What is your if somebody were to just ask you, "Hey, how'd your season go?" What would your response be?
It was a great case of soccer being soccer for us. That's the only way I can really describe it. We lost 6 1 goal games. We were unfortunate to score three own goals, two of those in those games. So you're just looking at a season where if you got in a tight game, it felt like everything kind of went against you. And certainly we've been on the successful side of that for other years. So when I got here in 2018 with Coach Desatel, we went 14-2-4, and after a season he had in 2017 where he was 7-9, and we got every break. You know, we went to
Mhm.
overtime with Wells College that year, who's not normally a soccer powerhouse, and we
Mhm.
had to go to overtime to win that game. So um, we just had a season last year where it felt like all of those bounces kind of went against us.
Mhm.
That would be the first bit that I would say this is why the season went the way it did. And then the second piece is probably a pretty distinct change in style of play from a team that's pretty direct in 18, 19, and certainly 21 as well, to a team that wants to have the ball and value the ball last year. And that's a change we've wanted to
Yeah.
make and implement. And there's some growing pains with that. So we're okay, to be honest with you. There's no one hitting the panic button here. We're, if anything, I think internally more excited because of where we're going to go in the brand in terms of soccer.
Mhm.
So the results are what they are, and they certainly, I think, next year will be very good. But we had a year where everything kind of went against us in terms of bounces.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting that you say that because I looked and I'm like, wow, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but like the five ties, and then I did look 6 1 goal games, and I didn't know about the own goals. So yeah, you were. I looked at your schedule and I was like, you're not far off, right? It was just who knows what the reasoning is for that. But are there any highlights that come to your mind?
From the season last year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would just say the highlights for us were we played. We were tied for 17th in the country in SOS, so we played the hardest strength of schedule we have here in the last
Mm-hmm.
5 years, which we're excited about. We're going to continue to play very good teams and challenge ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably the first year since I've been here as an assistant or head coach where our SOS is higher than some NESCACs, it's higher than some UAAs, and we
Mm-hmm.
certainly want it to be there. So we're playing a challenging schedule, and the exciting piece would be the soccer that we're playing. I
Mm-hmm.
think if you come to watch us play live, you would have been excited about how we're keeping the ball and breaking lines, and probably not excited about how we're scoring goals
Mm-hmm.
and our finishing. But we've added a few pretty special pieces we feel in this recruiting class that I think um, will add to that. But yeah, I think the exciting piece would probably be the brand that we're playing.
Mm-hmm. Um, is What's your rationale for the strength of schedule? Is it that the Liberty League in of itself is not enough? So the teams you play against in the Liberty League, or are you one of those to be like, I want to play the best of the best at every given opportunity?
I think we just want to play the best teams. The Liberty League is challenging enough. There's probably some coaches that would look at my schedule and a few that probably called during the year when we weren't getting results going, hey, why did you do that? But I just want to play all the best teams. And I think
Mm-hmm.
for players within the program, that's even the feedback that we're getting is that, yeah, we want to play a great team every
Mm-hmm.
chance we can get. And in doing that, you can lose those games, right? Like we go back and we win 5 or 6 of those 1 goal games or
Oh
even 4
yeah,
of those games, and you're deep in the NCAA tournament.
yeah.
So that's where we will go, and we'll continue to have a really strong strength of schedule. We're not, scared of that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think even if you went back to the 2019 schedule when Des was here, we had a meeting where we sat and said, all right, how difficult can we make it? And we played NYU and Messiah in an opening weekend and somehow won both. And then you're like, all right, we need to get 2 more regionally ranked wins, and we might already be in the tournament, right?
Yeah,
So it can go one of 2 ways, but I think
yeah.
um, if you look at any Liberty League team, if you go at St. Lawrence's schedule
Mm-hmm.
or you look at RIT or
Yeah,
RPI, they're all going to play, somewhere around what
yeah,
we're doing as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I know it's like the hate to say I like the idea that iron sharpens iron, right? Like I totally get that, but it can if it doesn't turn out, it can be crushing. You know what I mean? Like your opening week or 2 weeks could determine the rest of your season, both positive and negative, right? Like
Sure.
and so that's because you're playing. It's a gauntlet run every time, right? And so I'm always curious about that, but um, so why the I'm just curious now too. Like you had these success over these years playing a certain way, and then this way you're like, we're changing it up. Was there a particular reason? Is it just because that's the way you like to play, coach? Is it something else that was driving it?
Yeah. So, Justin, we're reviewing our results from 2018 really through 2021. And in that time, that 4 years, but only 3 seasons because of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
we had reached the Liberty League championship 2 times. We
Mm-hmm.
lost to St. Lawrence in both of those championship games. Actually, in 2019, we finished fifth in the league and still got a bid to the tournament and ended up losing in the round of 32 to Amherst. And I just
Mm-hmm.
felt as a program, we were reaching kind of the ceiling we could by playing that way, and we want to be a team that values the ball. I think it attracts the right player that we want, a higher standard of player that wants to
Mm-hmm.
play, and also it is also the way we want to coach and want to play. So it's one we kind of overviewed the whole program after 21 and said like, what do we want to keep and what do we want to get rid of, and
Mm-hmm.
both the players and the coaching staff agreed that we're going to play a brand that has more of the ball and a style
Mm-hmm.
that is probably a little bit more fun to play in, but also attracts a better standard of player all around the country. So that change is something we're going to continue with, but that was kind of the reasoning for it.
Yeah. Uh, I think if there's back to that question about players being better, I do think that there's a higher level of sophistication with how players view a game, and I find myself meeting really quality ball players that have opportunities but end up being so unenthused about how they some teams play that they I don't want to say write them off, but they just sort of like I don't want to play that way. I don't want to
Sure.
be a run and gun. I'm not that guy, right? Like I'm a ball at my feet. I want to find somebody to pass it to, that sort of thing. So I think that's legit. Um, okay, so I have this one for you. You got this season, obviously with the 5 ties against um, a good Texas Lutheran, a very good Lycoming this year, a very good Clarkson. You had a good Skidmore team and a good Hobart team that you
Yeah.
tied. What's your perspective on the no overtimes? Like, would you have preferred to gun it out, or you're okay with not going to OT?
I would say that I'm on the side of it's a good decision for player safety.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think that we played a lot of overtime games in the prior 4 years I was here, and
Mm-hmm.
we saw those players getting injured down the line
Mm-hmm.
as the season went on. So I think player safety wise, it's a great decision. We haven't, since I've been here in 2019, ever lost an overtime game. So uh, in that sense, yeah, I would have loved to go to overtime in those games,
Mm-hmm.
but um, there's always a piece of that you could lose those games too. So I think it is what it is. But yeah, I wouldn't mind the overtimes because I do think it's fun and I do think the players um, thrive in the environment. At least they have here for us. We've had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of success with it. But I talked to Coach Desitel about this in his year last year, and he was like, if we could just play overtime, I think we'd have 5 more wins because
Yeah.
us was a team that
Yeah.
always did that as well. So I think it is what it is. Player safety wise, again, great decision, but sometimes, yeah, last year was one where maybe we did
Mm-hmm.
miss, not being able to finish those games.
So I'm going to gather you're a proponent of making the regular season longer for that very reason.
Yeah, I would say assume everyone is. Uh, I just think it's a really tight season.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of games in a short amount of time, and even for us when we're going through our schedule and we're making it each year, I have to be cognizant if we play on a Wednesday and then we don't want to play Saturday and Sunday,
Yeah.
and then what does that do to your schedule down the line? And
Yeah.
there's just a lot of implications to playing so many games early on in the season. And I think there's probably something to be said for all of the NESCACs doing well in the past 15 years where they're playing at least a few less regular season games,
Yeah.
and again, a shortened preseason for them. So I think obviously it's changing now for them, but I think it was something that maybe gave them a little bit of a leg up.
Yeah. That's a great point. I didn't never even thought about that, right? Like you can go two ways, right? You could play the max number of games you possibly can, and at which point the soccer gods can either reward you or punish you because of the wear and tear.
Sure.
Or you can minimize the amount of games you play and sort of try to artificially make your season a little bit more tolerable because you're not playing so many games in a row. And I never thought of that's a great observation as well. I would think players want to play more, but you know what? Again, NESCAC is NESCAC. As told Coach Desitel, they're just weird. They do their thing. So I'm just like,
they
whatever.
they do. It's an interesting way to look at it. I don't know which way is better, playing 18,
Mm-hmm.
playing 15 or 17 or somewhere in between. But for us, we're going to play 16 games next year in our
Yeah.
regular season, which
Yeah.
is less than we've played in our last 5 years here. But
Mm-hmm.
we're excited to be really ready for all
Mm-hmm.
16 of those games, and really ready for each game and prepared for each game. Where I think sometimes there's some lack of preparation. If you play, let's say in the first week, you've got to play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. There's just no way your players are going to be extremely up
Yeah.
for each one of those
Yeah.
games, to show their best, to play their best, and to do everything that you want to do. So
Yeah.
we're actually pretty excited about a shorter schedule,
Mm-hmm.
or a more condensed schedule of a few less games.
Yeah. There's just like I say, it's just all of the demands on a student athlete. Playing a midweek game on the road is downright super difficult, right? How do you get up for it? The travel, all those different things, right? I think that's a really tough challenge. And when you, like you said, you go Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. Holy smokes! Like you just can't always be up, right? Like I think that's just human nature. But
For sure.
um, we mentioned you went 3-9-5. like you said, you had 5 ties, the 6-1 goal losses. Do, I'm just curious because you said like on the final third is where you struggled, right? Like you did well with the possession and all that. I mean, do you think it was an accurate the record is an accurate reflection of what you did on the field, or do you really do feel like, man, you just came up short and whatever, the soccer gods didn't smile upon you?
No, I don't feel like it's accurate. I mean,
Uh huh.
if I could send you the clips of a few of the sitters that we've missed, you wouldn't sleep for a few weeks as well. So it's just one of those years that it is what it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, um, there's a piece to that where we need to find attacking talent, which we've gone out and done in the last few months, and we're
Hmm.
excited about who we're bringing in. But um, some of that also is just a year being a year and soccer being soccer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's not a sport where a ton of goals get scored all the time. So,
Yeah.
um, and I would also say it's a sport that I think is somewhat changing. So, like, if you look at how many goals at the Division 1 and 2 levels, and now I think even infiltrating Division 3 are getting
Hmm.
scored, like there's still a lot of 1 goal games, but 1-0 games, I would say, but not as many as there were in years past. And
Mm.
people are scoring goals. So if you're not a team that's changing to be part of that environment, I think you might get
Yeah.
left behind a little bit. But yeah, I would say for in terms of the season, it was just one that a bit
Yeah.
unlucky.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. I do think like I I do think people are coming around to my trademarked theory that this is a game of goals, right? No matter how you look at it, what is the first objective of every player on the field, except for one, right? It's to score a goal. If that's your list of everything, like your first job is to score a goal. You can't score, right? Like I do this whole thing, mental exercise, except for the goalkeepers to stop them,
Right, right. No, I
right?
think spot on.
Yeah, yeah, and I think a lot of people are coming to that realization that even on your you want players who are comfortable in front of goal, right? So that if they do get the opportunity to score, they have the capacity to score. Because we've all played with players that couldn't hit the side of a barn, right? Like even if they didn't try, right? So
Sure, sure.
yeah, yeah. So I think people are thinking that way. Can you get a center back that's good in the air on a header? You can get him in a corner, or you're looking for a winger who can cut in and hit it with his left really comfortably, that sort of thing. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And coach, you make a great point. I mean, the amount of, and we talk about this in all of our clinics and anytime, honestly, we have people here on campus to talk about soccer, or any prospective
Mm-hmm.
student athlete. We can go out and find a center midfielder, a right back, an outside midfielder that just keeps the ball
Mm-hmm.
on any ECNL team, any MLS Next team,
Mm-hmm.
uh, any National League team. There's so many of them because soccer's
Mm-hmm.
grown so much in America that,
Mm-hmm.
and the coaching's gotten better, right? So everyone's learning to keep the ball. They're learning to, they've got good feet, they've got good ideas, a decent soccer IQ. They watch a lot of soccer,
Yeah.
but those are easy to find. It's the players that can actually create chances, win you games, are the ones that are tough to find. So it's a good thing for players to hear, I think, from time to time, is that yeah, like we went and watched you play and you didn't lose the ball, but did you create any chances if you're
Yeah.
attacking
Yeah.
fielder or in an attacking position? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that's not the first you've heard that on this
Yeah.
on this YouTube channel, but I just think it's one where so many players sometimes look very similar, even if they're not willing to take chances.
Yeah. 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 I always say, and that's why I coached my kids, right? Like you should, if you're not going to be able to score goals, and my two field players don't, simple players don't know how to score goals. Like it's just not a natural thing for them.
Sure.
So my next one was like, well, if you're not going to score, you have to basically deliver the perfect ball for somebody, be able to deliver the perfect ball for somebody to score, because then a coach is going to value that, right? Like you might not score, but man, you could sort of ping a ball or get the ball to a guy's foot to score. And then
Absolutely.
and then after that, dime a dozen, right? Like you're just a
Right.
dime a dozen. So,
Right.
um, hey, what have you started your spring practices already?
We start on Sunday.
Oh, nice.
Our guys had spring break last week, back in class today,
Hmm.
and we start Sunday. So we're super excited to get going again.
Yeah. All right. So this is totally off the beaten path, but your game when you come into campus and it sort of loops around,
Sure.
your high rises, those high rise places at the very top,
Yep.
you have all of the athletic things to your left. But is the game field up top to the right?
Yeah. If you look at the Terrace Storms, you've got to go
Yep.
up that drive, and
Yep.
then actually our softball stadium, our two practice fields, and then our game facility is there.
I totally missed that when I did my Fields of Dreams at Ithaca, because I found the really beautiful. Anybody who gets a chance, like it's a super great facility that you have the pool and the
Yep.
arena and all. It's incredible.
Sure.
I found that turf field over there, and I thought that was your game field, and I totally missed it. Got to do a
Yeah.
second Fields of Dreams when I get up there.
I was gonna say we'll have you out here again.
Yeah.
Um, it's actually pretty cool now. We've just got some exciting news. So we have Carpwood Field, which is our natural grass stadium.
Mm-hmm.
We also have our natural grass practice fields. Then, like you're talking about, Higgins Stadium, which is a turf stadium,
That's
seats
yeah.
around 800 to 1,000,
Yep.
and they actually just turfed the football field, Butterfield Stadium, which used to be natural grass, and will
Yeah.
now be another field where we can play home night games.
Oh,
So
nice.
we can play actually at 3 home fields then on campus, depending on who we're playing. But
Yeah.
yeah, very lucky with facilities for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they got top notch. Like no doubt about that. That new, like I said, that new facility that you have with the pool and the gym and all that. I was really impressed. Really impressed. Not to mention the views are spectacular. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna have to get up there again. So you make it difficult to figure out where your field is. Like I had no idea until after I did the Fields of Dreams. I had no idea it was up there. I think I got an email somebody saying, you realize you didn't even go to the soccer field. I'm like, what? No, it was. And they're like, no. So, and
I
I
saw. I
knew.
was thinking about sending you a note as well.
Yeah. No, don't rub it in. We'll do a second episode. Like I said, I definitely got to get up there. All right, I got to ask you. So like I said, outstanding individual, really enthusiastic soccer player, Colin Adams. But what does the rest of your recruiting class look like? Like, what are you bringing in goal scorers, natural goal scorers?
Yeah, we are. We have quite a few. I can't go into the exact details. They've
No,
got
that's I understand.
no deposit, but
Yep.
we have a target forward that I think will be very, very, very special. We're
Mm-hmm.
incredibly excited about him. And then we have two wide players again that we're very excited about, and we think will bring talent. And then already mentioned Ian and Colin to play centrally, and another player,
Mm-hmm.
Nicholas Ignacio from Pennsylvania, to play centrally. So, and we add that to what I think is a really talented group here already. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're very excited about the recruiting class. Also in my recruiting class was Liam McCursey, who is our first assistant now. We just added him.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably one of the best assistants in the region.
Yeah.
Just very, very excited about what he can do. He comes to us from Emerson. So they won regional
Yeah.
staff of the year, and Emerson made a really dramatic turnaround. And certainly that's not all Liam. That's the whole staff there that helped do
Yeah.
that. But we're very excited to have him a Bomber now.
Yeah. I saw that. I should have mentioned that he's just coming on board. Definitely a great addition. Last question, I'll let you get on with your day. What do you have any goals that you can share without it being you know, poster board material for your opposition, like on what your goals are for the fall?
Yeah, I mean, we say we want to win the Liberty League every year, so I don't think
Mm-hmm.
that's and I would assume Skidmore and RPI and Actor and everyone would have that on their board as
Mm-hmm.
well. So we want to try and win the Liberty League regular season. I think that's somewhat harder to do than even winning the tournament. I just think
Mm-hmm.
you have to run the gauntlet of every team, and playing away games in the Liberty League is just incredibly tough. If you go look at win-loss records over the past 10 years of
Okay.
away teams, it's pretty tough. So we want to win the regular season of Liberty League, and then we want to get to the NCAA tournament and go as deep as we can go. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really our goal every year. So I don't think it changes a dramatic amount year to year for us, but we're a team that's very close.
Mm-hmm.
In 21, obviously, we lost in the final to St. Lawrence, and hats off to them. I thought Coach Toshik did just an incredible job in playing us once. We played them actually at home in the beginning of the year, like I think the end of September in 2021, and won 2-0. And then we played them in the conference final, and I thought that they were dramatically different in terms of how they wanted to play, how they tactically set up. So honestly, hats off to him. He does a fantastic job there, and
Mm-hmm.
certainly
Good.
they've seen that with their results. But yeah, our goals don't really change. But in terms of what we're about right now, we just want to get better each day. We're a team that has kind of gone back to simplifying our end goal, which is like, do we get better? And if we do, then we'll see the results. But that was one of the things probably from the end of 22 to right now that we've really gone back to simplifying what we're about as a program, which is just being a great person, being a great student, and then working really, really hard athletically to get better as well.
Mm-hmm. So not wasn't the last question.
No worries. I got all the time in the world.
Right. Um, so in your spring, because you're transitioning to the way you play,
Yep.
what is your what is your focus? What is your focus going to be for for this spring? Like, what are you again, not to disclose, but what are the sort of things that you're looking at to do with them?
Yeah. Final third play would be a big one. Obviously, there's always a caveat to that because we're going to do all this work with the guys that are here. And then right now our recruiting class is 10 players, which is quite a few. So that obviously is going to change and they won't know all the things that we're implementing, but final third play and then breaking lines is the biggest thing for us. We're a team that presses, very well. We've been pretty hard to break down in the past 5 years, but I think obviously in 2018 and 19, we're pretty direct. So we broke lines for better or worse from kicking it pretty far. And now we'd like to break the lines on the ground. So,
Yeah.
and again, that's not to knock teams that are direct. There are a ton of direct teams that play great soccer in Division 3 and Division 1. We're just not going to be that program
That
anymore.
part, yeah.
So again, like it's not to say that we won't clip it long if we're under tons of pressure and we've got to release them, or not to say we're not going to play longer passes, but we're going to practice breaking lines on the ground and also growing our fitness. Fitness is a massive piece of what we do here at Ithaca. I think it's been a reason we've been a team that's won a lot of games from 2018 on. Is our standards really, really high. Our guys all believe that from player 1 through player 30. So we'll continue to get fitter as a group and put them off into their MPSL, PDL seasons for the summer, really ready to go so they can come back to us even more ready to go for the season.
Okay. All right, Coach.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me on. I much appreciated, and I said it before we even logged on, but I appreciate what you're doing for T3 soccer.
Thank you.
And it's really awesome and love having you and love being on.
All right. Coach, thanks a lot. Hope to see you soon up there in Ithaca. And yeah, this time I will, if I see you on the field, I will make it a point to say hello and not be shy about bothering you on the sidelines.
For sure.
All right. All right, Coach.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. If you like this show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also find me on anti-social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks. This is a message from my Chief Marketing Officer. I think this keeps him happy.